Good evening, folks. My name is Jivan Rendev. I am the president of a new organization in Melbourne, Australia called Naša Makedonia, dedicated to protect and promote the human rights of our nation and our people. I've been politically involved, I guess, since 16 years old, but certainly since university. I have to lay my cards on the table. I'm a leftist, and that'll come through in my conversation. I'm 73 years old now, and the fire is still burning for Macedonia and for human rights. Ordan?
Okay, I'm a migrant from Macedonia. I arrived as a 9-year-old child to Australia, but I went back to Macedonia to do my secondary education and first year of university before coming back to Australia. And I've basically maintained my connection with Macedonia and its people and culture and civilization all these years. And I've been involved in a number of activities at a community level with the Macedonian Community Council of Victoria, with United Macedonian Diaspora, and also with Naša Makedonia, but also with the civil society sector in Macedonia, like Novasnom and others. We need to stay in touch. We need to cooperate. We need to respect each other, and we need to work together for collective impact.
Sasha Manevsky from Canada and from Macedonia. Would you like to introduce yourself, please, brother?
Yeah, thanks for your invitation, and I'm very happy to be here. I'm president of non-governmental association Novasnom, and prior to that, I used to live in Canada for over 20 years, where I acquired my university. I was a banker, I had a business, etc. But now I'm here trying to connect and establish something totally new that is pure and that will politically defend Macedonian human rights, not just the human rights, but also our national cause. That's in a nutshell.
Thank you.
Sasha
Uzunov?
Hello to everyone here. Look, I've been a journalist and an Australian freelance journalist for over 30 odd years. I've covered the Balkans. I've worked in Iraq and Afghanistan. I've been to Macedonia 5 times. I've lived there. I lived there for a year between 2002 2003. I speak the language fluently. I'm the son of Macedonian migrants to Australia, so I have an interest and a passion for my parents' heritage.
Okay, folks. So, Sasha Manevsky, seeing as you're there, brother, I'm going to direct my first question to you. The first question is the election results. Who won, and why do you think VMRO DPMNE won these days?
Well, this was a classic revolt vote that the electorate expressed itself. And there were 3 messages, basically, that the Macedonians especially show to the rest of us. The first message was that they do not want to be a part of the EU on the EU process. And that is evident by the messages that have been reflected with the political parties such as VMRO, Levica, and ZNAM. They all had anti-EU agenda, which was provided by us, but by SDSM, and which clearly had EU agenda. And on the other side, the EU clearly said this is the only path forward. And that was rejected by Macedonians, and that was the main message that these elections have portrayed. And this is not something that we don't know. The consistent message of Macedonians is that they do not want to be part of the EU under the name North of Macedonia. That's a clear violation of our human rights. The second message, which is also important, was that Macedonians do not want Albanian political party at the moment to be part of the government. By giving VMRO-DPMNE a clear mandate to form coalition with either Znam or Levica or both of them. Why not? And that were the main results. The third one is a very consistent one. The people here were very sick of the corruption and the clear violation of the law on every level of the government and the poor governance. And that's something that was prevalent, and they want justice and just life. And that was the third one, which has been very consistent. Those were the three messages that I see the most important ones. And clearly you see what has been going on. Total violation of our wishes and against the political will of Macedonia, and that has been going on.
Sasha Uzunov,
Yes.
we spoke earlier, and what do you think? Do you think that anything has changed despite the election of a new government with a mandate to go away from the European Union?
I would, in essence, agree with Sasha Manevski's assessment. I don't think I'd be disputing his assessment of the election result. I would sort of go further and say, look, VMRO-DPMNE, like any other Macedonian political party, has certain boundaries that it can't cross, and you know, the elephant in the room is the United States, which we and Macedonians in Macedonia affectionately refer to the U.S. Embassy as the Kale, the tower, the fortress where the U.S. Embassy is situated in Skopje, in the Macedonian capital. So I think there are certain things that VMRO-DPMNE can't do. They can't get rid of the Prespa agreement. They can't get rid of the Ohrid framework agreement. They can't get rid of the so-called Bulgar good neighborly deal, etc., etc. So there are limitations imposed upon what VMRO-DPMNE can do. I mean, what they can do is they could, in essence, push maybe for a better deal, lessen the harshness of the so-called Bulgar deal, and the pressure coming from France and from the EU for Macedonia to change its constitution and insert a Bulgarian so-called nation-forming nationality in the preamble of the constitution. But we all know that what Bulgaria's objective is lawfare. I mean, once you've given into such demands, there'll be more demands, and it'll be a process of eating Macedonia from within, devouring it from within, using its own legal structures to do so, which is what some of the extremist Albanian nationalist parties have done. They've been installed because of the US via the 2001 war. I mean, and we're now seeing the petulant behavior of DUI, the party led by Ali Ahmeti, the Albanian nationalist party, which has been in power for over 20 odd years. It's chucking a dummy spit, so to speak.
Ordan,
Yes, look,
you,
there's a lot.
do you have anything to add to this?
Yes, I just want to say that there's a lot of debate taking place within the diaspora. We are deeply concerned about what's happening in Macedonia, because we were led to believe that a change of government will change the country and transform it. But sadly, as we have seen recently right in front of our eyes, watching Macedonian news and engaging with our friends and Macedonian media, we see that the regime has changed, but the policies haven't. And sadly, the new coalition government is repeating the same mistakes of the other regime, i.e. forming a coalition with Albanian terrorists that don't care about Macedonia. They never cared for Macedonia. Also allowing too much, how can I say, also, which is a big problem for us in the diaspora, but also for Macedonian societies, deep disconnection between Macedonia and its diaspora, who are effectively disenfranchised from the democratic process. Now, this was done through all sorts of bureaucratic means. We saw that they made up all sorts of ridiculous conditions to prevent us from being involved in the democratic process. You needed to have a passport from some shonky North Macedonia. I mean, they are completely how can I say, respectful of the democratic wishes of the diaspora, in addition to the democratic wishes of the people of Macedonia. So we are in a conflict situation which needs to be resolved through diplomacy and debate, rather than fighting on the streets.
Look, we'll get back to the international pressure on us, but you mentioned the diaspora. What do you think is the relationship between the diaspora and the political parties and political process and the actors, political actors in Macedonia? Do we have any rights? Do they listen to us? Ordan?
Well, look, I'll have to say that during this election process, we developed a bit of a document, a guide for the Macedonian diaspora, and I sent it to quite a few like presidential candidates. Some responded, some didn't. There is always there's no reason why the diaspora should not be integrally involved in the democratic process. No one can take away our rights. Macedonia belongs to us just as it belongs to the people that live in Macedonia. Just because we live outside of Macedonia doesn't mean that we are third-class citizens. We've got ideas, we've got talent, we are successful people living around the world, and it's a real shame that we have been treated like third-class citizens and disengaged. That's not acceptable, and I'm very upset with the current arrangements, and things need to change as soon as possible, because this is unsustainable. It doesn't help Macedonia. We need to look at Macedonia in a long-term perspective, using strategic foresight and also historical analysis. Macedonians in the diaspora have always played a key role in standing up for Macedonia. I remember people from my own birthplace in Popradište, like Dmitry Chupovsky. He was in Russia, and he started like a campaign to defend Macedonian identity and to connect and also to engage with the powers of the time. So this is just continuation of a process. No one can take away our rights, our human rights, our connection to Macedonia. No political party, no NATO, no EU. They are all, if you ask me, are just fig leaves that will fall, because they've got no values, they've got no history, they've got nothing. And Macedonia's got everything. And that's why they want to sort of like push us down. It's the classic tall poppy syndrome, I believe.
Sasha Manevsky, you actually went to Canada and you returned. You returned, and you are now deeply involved in the political process there. How have you been accepted, and what do people think of someone like you who's returned from Canada and wants to have a say in the political process in Macedonia?
Well, there's quite from disbelief to, being ridiculous and all in between. And knowing that the situation here, without taking considerations that the changes that have taken place in the Western society due to woke culture and many, many other things, Black Lives Matter, etc., especially in the North American continent, the political culture in Macedonia is not conducive to some new people with independent free thought, since there is a political culture of self-serving interests. Majority that are involved in the politics here have some types of a personal interest tied to their involvement. And that's one of the biggest impediments to free political thought, and also the culture. There is also the low incomes and not having opportunities for advancements have also played a role here that have prevented for independent political parties to form. And that's indicative to how people think, believe, but also there is a special operation here in the media campaign against our political will to have a free thought. There is a political media agenda pushed by the non-government organization, BRIS, also lots of the diplomats here that have made people think otherwise. So there is a parallel thought, parallel belief, parallel thoughts, and there is a skewed picture of Western values and how the Westerners live. That's for sure. And all this makes it a bit difficult to start something new. I must say that people do not believe their political parties have lied to them, cheated, and did everything worse. And that has had a reflection into the political actions. However, there are lots of people that are aware of the situation, and they need a little bit of encouragement to start activism. And that's what I have been trying to do. And we'll see. This is a battle. And the Macedonian national interests are not reflected in the political parties' views, especially in the VMRO and SDSM. And that's why we are North Macedonian. And as Sasha Uzunov, I believe, said clearly, you know, there is a conductor behind the scenes that has big implications in the political lives. However, the culture, our culture and lack of opportunities contribute to being servant to someone or subservient to other interests as well. That's on the summary, that's what I can say, something that is prevalent. However, I think that lots of people that are involved in the process, they know that this term, the last political parliament term, it was SDSM turn to get smacked. Now it's the VMRO DPMNE. It's although it appears that they're at the height of their power, day by day, their legitimacy will decline, because they have to follow anti-Macedonian policies that are contrary to people's interests. And that might open opportunities for some other people to organize. It's not easy, it's very difficult, but we need to try to form something else, some new movement that will firmly stand behind people's interests. And that's the most important here. That is not being followed. And that's why from the disenchantment and apathy to, to not being interested to be part of the political process is the result of the political activities over here.
Sasha Uzunov,
Yes.
you wanted to add anything? Because
yes,
I'd like to.
I wanted to sort of take two strands from both Ordan and from Sasha Maneski. Excellent assessments. There's an apparent contradiction in what's being played out in Macedonia. I mean, you have the Western elites, wanting Macedonia to become pro-Western, but at the same time, they deliberately keep out highly competent Macedonians in the diaspora from coming to coming to power or even holding political office. I mean, if you look at Greece, George Papandreou, the son of Andreas, was born in New York to an American mother. I mean, Serbia had an American Serb businessman for a while, Milan Panic, which the US tried to, they brought in as prime ministers to take down Slobodan Milosevic, I think in 92, 93. Croatia has had a Canadian Croat, I think Tim Oreshovac, or I've forgotten his surname. Someone can correct me on the surname, but they had a Croatian from Canada as their prime minister. So, and Bulgaria, the son of the late Bulgarian King Tsar, Simon Saxon-Coburg, or Coburg-Saxon, whatever he calls himself, was Bulgaria's prime minister. So all of these countries that surround Macedonia have had people from outside coming in and contributing, assisting. But Macedonia, for whatever reason, the elites that have run the country and have now aligned themselves with the West, keep Macedonians from abroad at an arm's distance. I mean, you have some very highly educated people. You have people, who are leaders in science, engineering. I mean, if I remember correctly, George Athanasovsky was selling satellite parts to NASA. You've got a host of other people, with incredible skills and talents who could easily assist Macedonia, but they're kept at an arm's distance. And I think, it serves two purposes. One, it allows the internal elite, which has run Macedonia since 1991, to indulge in corruption, because unfortunately, because the economic situation isn't good, the only way to accumulate enormous wealth is to go into politics and get involved in corruption. It's a vicious cycle that at some stage has to be broken, and I think this sort of leads back into the election results and the backlash against SDSM and Dewey's years in power. I mean, that's not to say that Vamorotopomene hasn't been involved in corruption scandals. I mean, the party has, but at some point, these very, very deep, serious corruption issues, law and order, the judicial system, the education system, the health system. I mean, we've had a number of scandals in Macedonia, related to, cancer treatment, cancer drugs being sold on the black market to Kosovo. We had a mobile hospital burned down in Tetovo. I could be here all night listing all of these scandals, but at some point, corruption has to be tackled, and I think even the US, EU have realized that things are getting out of hand, and you've also got the so-called road deal, the highway contract with Bechtel Enka, which has raised a number of questions.
Let's continue with you, Sasha, but I'll ask the other guys too. What do we need to do to have some rights in the Macedonian Republic? How can we build a better relationship with the parties there? Are there any parties worth helping, in any way? Because
look, I mean,
it seems as if we are totally disenfranchised at this point in time.
We are disenfranchised, but I mean, getting involved in political sides, political squabbles, I'm a bit wary. I mean, I don't want to be joining political parties and sort of taking part in political debates, which side is better than the other side. What it should be is, whatever diaspora movement emerges, it should be sort of above, party political lines. And the major political parties in Macedonia, in particular the ethnic Macedonian political parties, if I can use that term, should, treat the diaspora in that kind of way as a kind of resource to be used to strengthen the country, rather than using it as a political tool to hit each other over their head with. I mean, I know that VMRO DPMNE traditionally has, support here in Australia. I mean, because of the emotional appeal, et cetera, et cetera. And I mean, you've had people here in Australia who became disillusioned with communist Yugoslavia in not delivering, rights to ethnic Macedonians in Greece. Sort of taking a very casual, inconsistent approach, and I think that turned off a lot of Macedonians against Yugoslavia. So traditionally, Macedonians here in Australia have either psychologically, if not politically, sided with VMRO DPMNE. I think that's indisputable. But whether we should sort of get involved in party political disputes, I'm a bit wary of that, because you can get your fingers burnt in getting involved in political.
Oh, Ordan, anything to add?
Look, I'm interested in diaspora involvement in policy issues rather than party politics, because we know that party politics is really sometimes doesn't produce a lot of results, and they have vested interests. They block out new ideas. They don't want to listen. They're under the influence of foreign powers like the US, the EU. They are basically blocking their eyes and ears, and so we need to basically be a bit smarter and look at ways we can sort of like shape better policies, irrespective of who's in power. They need to do the right thing for Macedonia, not to undermine Macedonia, not to undermine its democracy, not to undermine its sovereignty and its culture and identity.
Sasha Manevsky, do you
Yes,
do you agree with
have
Sasha and Ordan on this?
Oh, absolutely. The involvement in politics is deeply personal issue, first of all. And that's why we have a bit different answers between Sasha and Ordan. And however, Macedonian diaspora, I must say, due to its experience and lifestyle, has a different view of many things that people not necessarily can obtain them here, even though if they have all, the most wishes to do so, and can really contribute with policy issues, but also be politically involved. However, I am afraid that being politically involved in Macedonia means to be subservient to the leadership of the party, not to have an independent vote or independent saying, because the culture, the political culture, our culture here is such as if you, express different view of certain policy issues that are different from the political leadership, that you might be viewed as against them. Not necessarily so. You might want to contribute constructively to the discussion, but it's not viewed, the culture is not conducive to such a view. And that's on the micro level. Also, there is what prevents the diaspora also here to be more involved is the political system, as I believe Ordan and Sasha touched upon during the introduction, which the political system is such that prevents you to vote rather than to be participant into the vote if you're in the diaspora. Another thing that is important here is that there is a negative selection, unfortunately, and more the people that are really, you know, might have natural aspiration to be political leaders are being taken away. That has been a culture since Yugoslavia, and it's been a political culture right now that really prevents the diaspora from being more and larger participant. I think that the diaspora can really solve many issues, as Sasha said about the countries around us have had prominent diaspora people running within the high governmental circles that have made difference. Gruevski did it between 2006 and 2008 and further down with limited involvement of some diaspora people. But other than that, they might, you know, what the positives they might bring, that can be seen as lots of negativities also here. Not because people don't want to see it, but because of the local culture, how they view opposite viewing political views.
So they feel
That's something
powerless.
that
The people,
Jivan, sorry to interrupt. Do you want to bring in the other speaker?
Yeah,
Yes, please. That's what I was going to
Bring in the other speaker.
suggest too.
yeah. Silvana.
Good evening. How are you?
Hi, Silvana. I can't see Silvana. That's why I haven't been able to bring her in.
I see
I'm
you.
very
Yeah,
sorry,
no
Silvana.
It's
So I've got
okay.
a question. I have a question for you, Silvana.
Mhm.
It appears like it doesn't matter who is elected, it's the same agenda. And the agenda is actually not even Macedonian agenda, it's an international agenda that we're told what to do. Do you think that the majority of people in Macedonia are okay with that? Or do you think they would like another direction for our nation other than pro-EU and pro-NATO?
Well, indeed, it appears that people are not happy. They've already expressed their dissatisfaction, even though it's early stages still. But they are sensitive and they seem to be innately aware of what's going on. Yes, there's been a change of political party coming in, winning the votes, but people don't trust. I think they don't trust the system. They don't trust those who are in the political parties. And they can see from this early stage that certain things are not right of what's going on. You know, certain contradictory statements are made by the president of the country, the newly elected president. Then we've got Mickoski, the leader of Mrodo PMN. I noticed, I couldn't but help notice, he's been having meetings with people from OPSE, people from all sorts of other kind of, you know, even representatives from other countries, when really I haven't seen anything about addressing the people and clearly outlining what their policies are and what they're doing and what are they, you know, what have they done? Have they gone back to work once they've been confirmed of their positions, or are they just visiting all these other people from other countries, other representatives of other countries, trying to appease them for some reason? Is it that they're looking for some kind of investments? What is it? I mean, people are not interested in investments. They're interested in a government that will look after their interests. And so far, we haven't seen anything that indicates that. I'm not impressed, I must say, with Mickoski not really focusing on running. I don't know, has he been appointed yet as the prime minister, or there's the premier, or not yet?
Not as yet.
Not yet.
Not as yet, but that's about to happen. But we
Mandate.
have
Mandate is coming, I believe.
mandate is coming. So, but still, even though the mandate hasn't been given to him, his party is the winning party. And so he needs to get going, start doing work that prime ministers do need to work. Okay, get everybody encouraged and have that positive attitude sort things out. There's a lot to sort out. What's the plan? I want to know what's the plan. Where is he going to start with all of those things? So it's not encouraging. I mean, they've won as far as getting rid of the communists in Macedonia. And well, I don't know to what extent are the Albanians and their political parties gotten rid of. They still seem to have fingers in there. The newly elected, what's his name? Nasobra Nieto?
Afim Gashi.
He doesn't appear to be of Macedonian background, in my eyes, or represent Macedonian interests. So again, we see some deals are being made behind the scene, as it were, knowing well that the Macedonian people do not really approve people of Albanian background to be in political positions of that kind, are they? They're not. I mean, the citizens of the country, they've got lots of rights, more rights probably than the Macedonian people. When I look at the agreement that was made, giving the Albanian population in Albania, assuming that they're 20% of the population, and therefore they've got a right for their language to be an official language. You've got to be kidding, official language. And then, of course, they progress from there, employing their own people in government, to a point where I have sent Christmas cards and letters to relatives of ours, and they never reached them. Yes, some of them had cash money in it. They never saw the cash money. Maybe I shouldn't have sent cash money. But these postal services in Macedonia are run by the Albanians. And that's not all. We've seen the basketball playing in the offices of all those Albanian ministers. We also know of them having some kind of positions where they're being paid, but they never go to work. So I am, this business of Albanian people having what is it? I would even call it interference in the country, and their bullying, I should say, and whatever else goes on. To me, it appears Macedonia, whoever is in charge, first of all, they have to have the knowledge, the competence, and the passion for their people. These people don't seem to do that. They're political animals to me, okay? We've got a similar thing here.
Opportunists, careerists.
They are opportunists, and they are carrying on, like Sasha Manevsky was saying earlier, they're pursuing their own private personal interests, okay? That's what's behind. And as long as that happens, there won't be any progress there. In my eyes, these people are incompetent. They say one thing and they do the other. It appears that the country is where it is because of all the corruption, absolutely all these people. When I read the Prespa agreement from Professor Dr. Igor Yanev, it's unbelievable what these people have done.
Capitulated. Total capitulation.
Well, really, they don't care. All they care about is their own pockets. And we know what his name is in Saudi Arabia or wherever he is, Dubai. Hopefully he will be tried and, taken, put wherever he needs to go. But it's concerning because we don't seem to have people who are mature enough, who love the country, who are competent enough to be able to look after the country. And then, of course, the interference from the USA, that ambassador woman, I tell you what, a former CIA agent, and probably still is, I don't know. Then you've got the Dutch ambassador, all these ambassadors, all these people up there na Kaleto, neli, koji što prisluškuva sve što se slučuva znat odnapred, tije gi prava tije politiki, tije stavovi što se, neli, Ordan spomna. Interested in policy issues. What policy issues? These people are relying on the US people, the European Union, my God, the European Union, who wants to be in the European Union, and they are wanting to be in the European, or they're told that we need to be in the European. The kerfuffles that occurred, reading the Prespa agreement, all the information that Professor has included in it based on his research and all the documents there, all the agreements, the framework, all these agreements between Bulgaria and Greece. It beggars belief that none
So-
of these people involved in the government, and of course, President, what was his name? Georgia Ivanov, who refused to sign. And then you've got Jafari signing it. Wow. Jafari, under no authority. The Constitution doesn't provide for him to sign anything. But, you know, they seem to yield some power there and they get things done, and they are where they are because of all those things. So you've got in this country, small country with hardly even 2 million people, you've got others running the show. Who are running the show? We already know. I mean, people are already aware of it. It's the Sidasama and the Dewey people, and they are openly talking about it, that they are running it. I mean, I can't help but that image of, what's his name, that Albanian man, Kakukovika.
Singing the Albanian anthem, or I
Not
don't know.
just that, but the flag, you know, somewhere in Skopje, this huge flag that they were launching, whatever they were doing. I mean, I was there last year in September, October, and I happened to spend quite a bit of time in my birth city of Skopje, and then over to Ohrid, you know, going through Gostivar and Tetovo. Unbelievable. Is this Macedonia or is this some other foreign country with their flags everywhere? Even one of the properties, one of the houses, the whole wall was with the Albanian flag. It was painted, Albanian flags everywhere. And then I see along the road these cemeteries where our people, was it our people or their people, were murdered, allegedly, okay? In 2000
Their
and
people.
whenever that was, there were many of those things. So it seems to me there's too much interference from outside, incompetent people from inside who are easily bought and sell anything and everything that doesn't belong to them. And it's really, really worrying. And we here in this country and in other Western world countries who certainly, you know, have had the opportunity to experience life here and to think otherwise as outsiders, even though we are connected to our motherland, those views that we have are not necessarily shared by our people in Macedonia. Some of them can't even get their head around certain concepts. And of course, the immediate reaction is, no, you know, that's not okay. It's okay for you in Australia. You can work and be paid for it, and you can take part in this democracy. But they don't seem to know what democracy is. They haven't been given that opportunity to exercise their democratic rights. And they've got people who are totally incompetent, totally corrupt. So this business about the Albanians being in all facets of life, in the bureaucracy, in administration, in the judicial system, who elects who, how many are elected in the High Court, how many here, there, everywhere. It's just, it seems to me somebody has worked all this out. When we look at these agreements, Prespa agreement and the rest of them, there's one author. Only one author. Apparently that author is the same author for the Afghanistan, for Iraq, and all other countries. It's been written by one person or persons, and it's been, I'm sure, prepared well many years ago. And it doesn't work in those countries. It's not working in Macedonia.
I think it's the same hegemon that's trying to run the whole world that's running Macedonia.
So how do you get out of that situation? You know, how do you get? We can play a major role. I agree totally. We have been prevented from doing so. You know, even this consulate. I happened to meet the consul. What's her name? Consul. Forgotten her name. Unimpressionable woman, I have to say. She's gone back to Ministerstvo za vnitřní работи в Skopje. Yeah, and there isn't one who's replaced her. So we have no consul here. And they really represent the governing party. So now that there's a different party, we will see if we get one and who we're going to get and what's the politics behind it. But, you know, from my point of view, also, if I may add, I know I keep talking, we can't trust these people. Those people in Macedonia, Sasha Manevski, We do not trust those people in politics, and we do not trust the people in the political parties, whoever they are, Levica, Mevica, and the rest of them. We do not trust them, and they are not looking after our motherland. And we are connected to our motherland because every one of us has got relatives there. We bring in a lot of money to the country when we visit, and some people are fortunate to visit every year over there. So the investments and the contribution is enormous. But what do we get in return? What do we get in return?
Disdain. Ridicule and disdain is what I experience when I'm there from our intelligentsia. So we've got like not much time left. Are there any political alternatives in Macedonia? And what should we do with agreements if we had an alternative?
Well, I have had on a number of occasions to interview Professor Dr. Ljupčo Ristovski, okay? And yes, I think from my observation, from what I've heard him speak, and I think he's been speaking openly and honestly. I had a meeting with him last October when I was in Macedonia. They seem to show some prospect, but they're not doing very well at the elections. So I don't know what's going on there. People are not trusting them either, or being able to do what they said they would when they first came up with their campaign about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when there were elections. So they would need to work on that if they want to stay independent, and if they're really genuinely interested about getting Macedonia out of the doldrums and not communicating with these idiots from Kale and from elsewhere. Too much interference from Brussels and from Washington. Yeah.
Ordan?
Yeah.
What about you, bro? What have you got to add to this?
Well,
regarding viable alternatives?
Look, I believe we need to basically look at all the options that are available to us as a country, as a sovereign country. We don't have to be a puppet state. No one has to be a puppet state. It's up to the electorate to decide, to hold their politicians to account, to participate in parliamentary and debates and policy debates to change things around. There are options to this EU, NATO gas chamber that we have been thrown in. There's an agenda that they want to expand their empire, the evil empire, if I can add. But we've got other options. We can join BRICS. We can be an independent country. We don't have to be a sucker to anyone. Our history as ancient Macedonians teaches us that we can achieve glory if we are smart, if we do what's right for the country, if we are honest, if we respect each other, if we are truthful to ourselves, if we obey the laws and do the right thing and use diplomacy and friendship with other countries. We don't have to be puppets of anyone. We can collaborate with BRICS. We can collaborate with the rest of the world. There's a whole world out there, and political parties in Macedonia have been forced into this chamber to think there's no alternatives. That's a load of rubbish. No one accepts it. And I wrote an opinion piece in Australia for Online Opinion, and also for the Nordic Times, looking at the options for Macedonia beyond EU and NATO, because that's really an option for Macedonia, and we need to move forward. We can't get stuck forever and ever being blackmailed. You have to change this, now you change that, and then tomorrow some other nonsense. Enough is enough. We've had a gutful of this rubbish.
Sasha Manevski, I'll get back to you, Silvana.
Thank you.
Sasha Manevski, what do you think, bro? Is there an alternative?
The alternative, unfortunately, no. And that's straight out answer. But also
not even Levica, not even Levica.
Levica has shown some signs of encouragement, and that's something that is really refreshing with that regard. However, the fight for Macedonia now lays in Macedonia, not outside. Right up to the name change, the fight for Macedonia was to convince every country to recognize us under our constitutional name and to enter the UN under that name. However, once we changed the name, the fight over here, it's over here for the heart and mind on each Macedonians that we need to get our name back and to build a just society. Those are our two primary objectives as a national cause. And that needs to be done over here by our people through a political organized movement. Unfortunately, I don't see at the moment such activity that has to be a main political force. Subservient to the other interest is the main order of the day, and that's exhibited by both SDSM and VMRO. But I call you, if you do want to be involved, and if you do want to involve, you can call me at any time. I work here every day to convince people that that option is available, so we can join forces. And that's the most important thing that we need to do, because the clear path without alternative is to return our constitutional name. Any other option is against our political national interest.
Sasha, what do the people of Macedonia think? We've all spoken about the parties. Can someone give me an idea of what the people, not obviously there's lots of different opinions, but is there one general trend where people do want our name back and are frustrated with this process of going to the EU and NATO and are seeking alternatives? Or is it just some of us in the diaspora who are looking in and wondering what they should do, but the people over there aren't?
Thanks for asking. That's a very good question. Like Macedonians, 90% they want their name back.
Yeah.
But the problem is how to get it into the political realm that main political parties can adopt it. The main political parties are playing other than SDSM, which is not interested in that, and that's why they got 154,000 votes, record low. The main political parties grabbed and played by the Macedonian national emotions, and VMRO DPMNE played really well with their campaign, and they stole again the vote just to take the country into the different direction from what the regular voter wants. And the corruptive, that's the main order of the day. So people are either, they all want our name back, but some of them don't believe that it's possible because of Kale and we are very weak. To some people that don't want to have any saying, or some people that are party serve, they serve to the party interest. So whatever parties are saying, that's what they say.
If I could,
those are the emotions.
Sorry to cut off Goran there.
No worries.
I just wanted to jump in before I lost my train of thought, but it should be in essence I agree with Goran and the other speakers, the main thrust, but it should be a two-pronged attack, political struggle, in the sense that obviously the fight has to be in Macedonia, but also we need to somehow convince the U.S. State Department, even the U.S. President, that the U.S. needs to change its foreign policy, and unfortunately, lobbying in I don't want to tread on anyone's toes here over activists in North America, but our lobbying of the U.S. I believe hasn't been good. I don't think we've done enough to convince or even try to convince the US that it needs to change its foreign policy towards Macedonia. I think that is where one of the battles have to be fought. You know, we're talking about a political non-violent battle. Don't get me wrong. I don't advocate violence, but what I'm saying is there needs to be an effective lobbying of members of Congress, senators, House of Representatives, governors of various states, the U.S. presidency, et cetera, the U.S. State Department. I think that's where the second battle has to take place. It has to take place in the U.S. for Macedonia's survival.
Silvana, to get back to you, you mentioned Integra. I also interviewed the Integra person, and I had a totally different impression from him than what you had, because he told me that he wanted to be a part of an axis which involved Washington, London, Skopje, and Tel Aviv. So
Yeah,
I don't know, maybe he's changed his opinion, but he came across as really strongly pro-Western and pro-American.
Yes, yes, and you can understand that because he did live in America, in the USA for many years, and finished his master's degrees in the US. So there's that influence on him. I am not in any way promoting Ljupčo, because my job was to interview him and find out what are the policies, and he seemed to know what he's talking about. There's truth in what he was talking about, but obviously they're not strong enough to be able to do anything about it. I don't know what the results were, Sasha Manevsky, about Integra, how many votes they got, but it was a disaster the time before that when they had the local elections. So what I would agree that the probably most important area that needs to be tackled is to annul those agreements, the Prespa agreement and the rest of them. And that's not a difficult process. Igor Yanev has already provided advice. After all, he was advising the ministers many years ago about international law and so on. So he's an expert on international law. It's a matter of sending a note or a letter. And you no longer wish to have this agreement because it's it's one-sided, and it's damaging to Macedonia. It's been damaging. They've lost a lot because they've signed this agreement with Greece and with Bulgaria, and allowing the Albanians to have their language official and more. Everything else they've got out of that document. So that is of vital importance. That the name of the country is being referred to by its proper constitutional name. Whatever changes were made in the constitution, they need to be rectified as well. And Macedonia needs to stand up to these people who seem to be all the time dictating what Macedonia should do. I mean, the Americans run the show. We know that Macedonia is occupied by the United States. They're an occupying force in the Balkans. There's no doubt about it. It's an occupying force.
And it appears that they also occupy places like Germany and Italy. And
absolutely, in Germany, they've been there for a while. But look, they've got their own foreign policies. Yes, we do need to lobby people in Congress in the US. And yes, we have had lack of, well, probably no lobbying muscle. And we need to lobby. Take the Greeks, for example. Their lobby machine, millions of dollars are being spent to twist the truth and the history of our people. Yeah. And what I find interesting too, when they had these meetings before the Prespa agreement was signed, there were so many of them, so-called experts representing Greece. There were none from our country that really had any knowledge, and interestingly, this Prespa agreement, I've got a copy of this. I've been doing the YouTube. I'm nearly finished with putting that in the public domain, this whole Prespa agreement, cultural genocide of the Macedonian national identity from Professor Dr. Igor Yanev. None of them, it's written in English. Why was it written in English? The original document, the Prespa agreement, is in English. Who is the author of that document? Because it seems to be almost identical to the Afghanistan, Iraq, and other countries, agreements that they have put together. Where is the Macedonian version of this document, the Prespa agreement? Where is it? Why has nobody publicly revealed that document?
Question why? Question why?
The other document, the other agreement, the framework agreement with the Bulgarians, that was apparently written in Macedonian. But to me, it seems like there's one author of these things, and it's not one from Macedonia. It's one from, or many, however many they are. They put that together to appease the Albanians. They put that together to appease the Bulgarians and the Greeks, of course. Whatever their agenda is, dividing Macedonia between Bulgaria and the Greater Albania plans that we've been told about for many, many years, I wish to God that none of that will eventuate. So yes, there's a lot of work to do. Yes, we can influence whatever's going on, Sasho Manevski, and indeed it's important that we have this collaboration with you and see how we can best represent the interests of the diaspora that also our benefit to our people in Macedonia.
Well done. I'd like to pick up where Sasha mentioned about our people in the United States, our lobby group in the United States. So other than UMD, are there any other lobby groups in the Macedonian lobby groups in the United States? Because I don't see UMD as a lobby group. I see them as a cheerleader for the United States.
Look,
So I don't expect anything from them.
Yeah. Can I just explain? UMD is a charitable organization. It's operating on a shoestring budget. And to lobby in the United States is a very expensive business, right? You need millions and millions of dollars. Very hard for the diaspora to raise these sort of funds. We've had difficulties in the past, but things can change. We need to basically mobilize strategically to develop friendships, not just with the Americans, but outside the US empire. Because the US empire, that's a really, how can I say, difficult customer. First of all, they've ruined their own economy, their own democracy. They've got massive issues that they're heavily indebted. They're promoting wars. They're not interested in peace. They want to destroy, Ukraine. They're really on a savage path, and really it's a declining empire. So I'm very, very concerned about the current trajectory of American hegemony, if you like. So we need to basically look at more friendlier options that suit our culture and our history and that respect us, rather than treat us as slaves. It's not in the Macedonian culture and tradition to be slaves. We are rebels. We are revolutionaries. We are proud people. We are not puppets to anyone.
So what are the alternatives, Silvana? What should we be doing other than listening to the
would, if it were up to me, I would show the door to the American ambassador to go back to Washington. Okay, no more ambassadors there. They need to be approved beforehand. I mean, this is, I
agree with you.
Or they need to respect the will of the people. After all, they're guests in Macedonia. They've got these premises on Kale. Yes, that's their little area. But their mouths, somebody needs to control their mouth. And these politicians who are in charge of the country, they have to stop going there and reporting and getting instructions from them or what should happen to the country. I remember my work at SBS as a journalist a few years ago now. We used to get news items from Radio Skopje. Yeah, most of those news items talking about Albanians. And talking about the American ambassador, what they said, or who visited the ambassador, or what was decided. And I even wrote to Radio Skopje. I said, listen, you people, because they were interested to know what sort of material we wanted to broadcast for our listeners here, I said, the diaspora is not interested in the Albanians, okay? Not at all. We're not interested in what the Americans are doing. We don't care what the Americans are doing. We want to know what is being done. Give us some news about our people. Negative, positive, constructive news, not about, the Americans telling the politicians, and it's regurgitated, the politicians are then saying, it's coming from the mouth of the Americans about what, should be done in the country. Now, how would you like somebody to come into your home and dictate to you what you should be doing all the time? I mean, Macedonia is the land of the Macedonian people. Yes, there are other people living there. I get a bit passionate, but those people are guests. We are guests here, and we are treated as guests. No matter how long we've been in Australia, whether I'm a citizen of Australia or not, we are still regarded as guests. Now, I will share something in confidence with you.
And a million people, others.
Few years ago, when I went to Macedonia, and I've been going regularly to Macedonia, I happened to be at the airport when it was in Skopje, when it was called Alexander Makedonski. Okay. Now, I had some suitcases. One of them was lost. So I had to line up in a queue to wait to report that my suitcase is missing, and waited in this queue. In front of me was this fellow, red hair, freckles on his face. He was on the phone talking in broken Macedonian, yeah? No grammar, you can sense the accent. And I thought, okay, sounds like an American person to me. And he's telling his chauffeur that there will be a delay because his luggage has been lost again, or it's not there, and he needs to report it. So he's telling his chauffeur, and I'm thinking, okay. Then I started to chat with him after he finished his exchanges with the chauffeur. And I said, my name is Silvana Pavlovska. How do you do? And I learned from this fellow that he was the right hand of Ambassador, what's his name? Rickert, what was his name, that fellow?
That's right.
Philip T. Rica.
Yeah. He was the man in charge after the ambassador, and his wife was in charge of all the personnel employed at the American embassy. And I was interested to know, because my background is also translation, interpreting, and linguistics and teaching. I wanted to know whether there's any way, whether they needed any. Actually, that was not at that meeting. Later on, I had a meeting with him to see whether they needed any interpreters and how we can work with them if there could be any, possibility of any business with them. But I learned that he works for the embassy, that he's in charge there. Don't ask me his name. I've got his card somewhere. He did give me his card. So the second meeting, I was happy to meet with him in Pelister there over a glass of mineral water. I also brought along one of my first cousins. He was a little bit younger than me, highly educated fellow. And he said to me, Goran Pavlevski said, Silvana, why do you want to meet them? I said, look, I'm inquisitive. I want to know, So we discovered at that meeting that this man whom I met with had written numerous reports where he was scathing about our people, about our government, that the Macedonian government and the Macedonian people were disadvantaging the Gypsies, the Albanians, particularly the Albanians. All these reports. And he even told me where to find them. What was the link, for me to look them up. I thought to myself, I'm not interested. Now I know where you stand. So I'm sitting with an enemy of ours. He's telling me stuff, and I don't know whether he realized what he was doing. He's telling me about the things allegedly that our people were undermining other people's rights. He was the author of those documents. And maybe they're still on the net, available on the web. I don't know, but I wasn't interested because I knew then and there that was the end of the meeting. No more meetings with this person. We are very clear who we are dealing with here. And his wife, he'd been to visit his wife in America because she was pregnant, about to give birth to their child. And she was in charge of all the people who were employed in the embassy, even though she was pregnant, but working in her office from home. And in relation to the possible work, translation, interpreting work, they said to me, oh, we have already employed an Albanian person who speaks Serbian, Croatian, Albanian, Macedonian. Oh, well, wonderful, wonderful stuff. So there you go. I am sorry, I cannot regard the Americans or the embassy, people working in the embassy as friends.
I agree.
Partners, because they're not. They're anything but partners and friends. So what do? That needs to be handled. I know Luke Turistovsky has told me he has had many invitations, telephone calls, emails from the American embassy to go to their office in Cale, talk to them, and he has refused them all. That's what he told. He does not want to deal with them. So whether that's true or not, I don't know, whether there have been any meetings, but it's really worrying what's going on over there. So if Nov Asnom can do something about it in collaboration with others and us here, whoever wants to, is on the same wavelength, same thinking, then certainly one has to start somewhere with these things. It's a mess. The whole thing is a mess.
Thank you. Sasha Uzunov.
Yes.
Sasha Uzunov, to all of you. In Australia, we have this saying, it's the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Right.
Now, in Macedonia, no one seems to have understood that if every party in Macedonia is pro-West, pro-EU, there is no reason for them to actually allow us to get in the EU or in the European Union. They will keep us in limbo forever because we have no alternative. Now, shouldn't there have been some thinking in our politicians that there is a strategy, and that strategy is to pretend to want to go somewhere else so you can get invited to the European Union?
Well, look, I mean, mate, look, I'm not a Titoist, but Tito sort of had that clever balancing act. 1 minute, Washington's friend, next minute, Moscow's friend. 1 minute with the third world, the non-aligned movement, getting sort of free cheap oil, bananas, and then sort of selling weapons and then scaring the US and aligning with the Soviets, and then falling out with Brezhnev, and then sort of aligning with Nixon. Absolutely. We sort of lack, or not we, but the political elite in Macedonia seems to lack this sort of understanding of
real politics.
Exactly, of how international relations works. Serbia, for example, Serbia's President Vučić, who's a controversial figure, has sort of tried to play East and West. He's signed a number of agreements with NATO. I think there was an agreement he signed which allows NATO forces to enter his country, but without becoming a member of NATO. But at the same time, he's tried to play the Russian card, and I think if you've noticed, the US has tried to court him. They've changed their strategy of going from being confrontational to trying to sort of court him in order to somehow pull him away from the so-called Russian sphere. As you know, the US and the West have sort of played this Russia scare card for all it's worth.
Yeah, the boogeyman.
Exactly. I mean, in Macedonia, I mean, there is no Russian interference. I mean, the pro-Russian party known as Edinstvena Macedonia has never been able to win a single parliamentary seat.
Mm.
You know, the 2004 Khalid El Masri case, where the German Lebanese tourist man was kidnapped and handed over to the CIA to be tortured in
Mm.
Afghanistan. You know, all these sort of European court findings, you know, of U.S. intelligence operations in Australia confirmed that, you know, there is no so-called Russian interference in Macedonia. That Macedonia has largely been U.S. Turf since its independence in
Independence.
1991.
Mm.
Now, we at some stage, you know, look, you know, I'm also a political realist. I mean, we can't cut ties to the US, because if we do, then you can bet your bottom dollar that there'll be a coup, you know, or even another ethnic Albanian war unleashed upon us. But
Mm.
we need to find some kind of you know, strategy, some kind of balancing act without alarming our American masters, but at the same time letting them know that, look, you know, there are certain red lines that we simply can't afford to go beyond, you know, for our very own cultural, political survival.
Mm.
I just want, we've gone over an hour and a bit, and we're going to try and keep it short. But there is one more question I'd like everybody to address to everyone. And the question is there hope for the future, or is Macedonia doomed to be divided by between Albania and Bulgaria?
It's not doomed, but you need wisdom, and that's lacking at the moment. Somebody needs to give some wisdom to Mickoski, I think. They need wisdom, and they need to have that political acumen. They don't have it. You know, they've got their masters there, yes, but you can still talk to them and negotiate with them instead of doing what they're telling you to do all the time. I'm concerned about the people. There is hope. Of course, there's hope. Always there is hope. Things can change.
Yeah.
You know, they may change overnight. Who knows if something happens? But as matters stand at the moment, I'd like to see some concrete results from Mickoski and even the president, and, you know, do something about the name. Okay, annul the agreement. If they were to send a note now to Greece and the United Nations advising them, then it takes 12 months for that to take effect. 12 months, one whole year. So the sooner it's done, the better. Send them a note. You don't need to do anything else other than send them a note. The agreement is one-sided and damaging, and, you know, there's plenty of evidence that it's been damaging.
Sasho Manevski?
Yeah, well, there is a clear danger, and that's how the policy is being played by fear, that keeps political parties aligned and not to think about undertake any national strategic issues, and against our will, basically. And the policy of fear is that the Albanians are the boogeyman and the Bulgarians will divide the country. But it's not so from the international relation point of view. It's not that easy, and that we should not be afraid to undertake our real own interests.
Yes.
And that's the key. No country, Kosovo is exception, Ukraine is exception, and those are the political events that are really big in world political history. So we should not take them as a regular political issues. So playing by fear is something that is, normal over here.
Yeah.
To align Macedonian policy towards the EU, suggesting that if we do undertake any other political options and alternatives, will be against us and against our sovereignty. And we should not be afraid of undertake. We should be very courageous and wise, and to convince our people that we do have options. And that's the very most important, and to try to involve the bright people to bring in the right solutions for our country. That's something that we need to do before we can form, of course, a government that will be pro-Macedonians, that can effectively lobby anywhere else. We don't have any lobby nor influence because we are subservient to other interests, and that's the problem. So that's why before we do any lobbying, we need to work with our people and form something new that can firmly stand behind the national interests that are not represented within this government, not the previous government.
And what are you suggesting, Sasha Manevsky? What's that?
We have to attempt to build a brand new political movement that will under its core will have the Macedonian national interests and will not deviate from those. That's the key. And for that, we need to involve the healthy Macedonian. It's kind of when I say healthy, it's more people with integrity, bravery, and knowledge that want to play active role. And that's the most difficult issue to get. There are lots of people that know, that are very knowledgeable, that they don't want to take part into the process. But that's I see as a solution. Wise people that are very courageous and brave and knowledgeable in its own field can take part and form a new political movement that will be accepted by our people. That's the only solution, because none of the accept Levica, which has some political burden in themselves by being part of the colored revolution, which was CIA-based operation.
Yes.
And other than those guys, there are none of the political parties in the parliament represent the Macedonian national interest at the moment.
Order?
Look, I think Macedonia must focus on its national interests, its economy, its environment, its people. It needs to look after its own interests, right? Rather than being focused on meeting the interests of the unipolar world disorder. And we need to learn lessons from history, otherwise we'll repeat the same mistakes again. And I'm very disappointed, I have to say, that from the statements that are coming from the president, that she will maintain the Prespa agreement. She respects how can you respect the Prespa agreement and be the president of Macedonia? That doesn't make sense. These things are completely cognitive dissonance. It doesn't make sense. And also for the political parties like VMRO to say, oh, svršena rabota, that's nonsense. That's a lot of rubbish. They can sort of lie to themselves, but they can't lie to us. It's no good for Macedonia. So they need to be held to account. They need to be, especially by the diaspora, because no one has got more legitimacy in Macedonian affairs than the Macedonian people. And we need to be playing a more active role in Macedonian politics, in society, in the development of the country. We can't be excluded. We can't have a war fighting between government and the diaspora. That's nonsense. We need to work together. We need to be smart and strategic and work for the benefit and be brothers and sisters rather than idiots.
Silvana, I'll get to you, but I wanted to, you'll have the last word, but I wanted to talk to Sasha Uzunov again. Sasha?
Yes.
Can you add to this? Is there anything that someone has missed or or is this just working hard, forming an organization?
Well, I
And,
think the most immediate thing that can be done is to either get rid of the Bulgarian agreement or renegotiate another, because if any Macedonian government accepts that agreement and implements it, you've basically kissed goodbye Macedonia.
Mm.
Now, the Prespa agreement is very damaging. It's laid the groundwork, but for the time being, we need to somehow neutralize the so-called Bulgar Good Neighborly Agreement, because if that's implemented, you're in effect handing to Bulgaria the education system to Bulgaria. You're handing over history. You're handing over identity. I mean, you've already done that to Greece, but the Bulgarian agreement is the final nail in the coffin.
Mm.
And if you allow that into play, then it places the country onto the path of partition within a decade, between a greater Albanian entity and Bulgaria. Now, I think that is the most immediate foreign policy objective that the incoming Macedonian government and president must tackle somehow, to moderate or soften that Bulgarian agreement somehow. How that will be done, to be honest with you, I don't know, because the French and the EU are locked into ramming this agreement down the throat of Macedonians. But you've had a number of European pundits. There was a German journalist called Martens who wrote an article saying that look, there's no point in accepting the Bulgarian blackmail, because you won't be joining the EU anytime soon anyway.
That's right.
So maybe some kind of strategic pause. I mean, rather than sort of stopping it or blocking it, maybe just putting it on hold for the time being,
Mm.
and then seeing what happens down the track. But be that as it may, the immediate objective is to somehow moderate or neutralize that Bulgarian agreement.
Mm. Mm.
Silvana,
Mm.
you've got the last word.
I would like to see changes coming. Let me think. We have a president. The prime minister hasn't been installed yet, but he's already doing prime minister or premier duties. I'd like to see concrete statements and results. What is going on? What are they doing about reforming the jurisprudence, the legal system? What are they doing about the education system, the welfare system? A lot of people are poor there. They have no money to eat. And they're sick and they're dying, and all these scandals going on. They need to get their act together. I don't know if Mickoski is a puppet of the Americans. It's possible that he may be. But when you've got the electoral system as well, if you were to establish a brand new political movement, you'll still be working within that existing electoral, what's it called?
It's a gerrymander system at this point.
There are so many concerns, so many problems there in the country, and by changing the political party into VMRO, the ruling party now, I don't know whether we will see any changes for the positive, certainly not in the short term. People were very enthusiastic. They voted for VMRO. They were encouraged to vote for VMRO to get rid of them. However, have they got rid of them? I mean, have they got rid of the citizen and do we? Have they? What's changed? the social security area is full of Albanians who don't even come to work, yet they get paid. They don't do anything. Some of them even say, oh, I don't know what I should be doing. I'm sharing with you inside information. They don't know what they should be doing. Somebody has to teach them. And they're not coming to work, yet they're getting wages. And they're supposed to be administering the payments to people, pensions. People in Australia who are in receipt of Macedonian pensions are not receiving their pensions for weeks and months. Why? Nobody writes to them. Again, Social Security is being governed by an Albanian woman. The fondot, što je za penzionerski od fond. Šiptarska je odgovorna tamo. И тоа работно место веќе е долги години. И само си вработуваат своји луѓе за нивна корист. Би сакала да и јас сум, мислам, гледам оптимистички на ова, меѓутоа треба да се превземат мерки. Треба на некаков начин нашата диаспора да воспостави врски, не само со Сашо Маневски, така беше? Маневски, туку и со други организации, каде што нели можеме да влијаеме. Јас лично, иако сум државјанин на Австралија и ние сме долго време во Австралија и мислам државјани сме од самиот почеток, сепак јас сум родена во Скопје, Македонија. Сите ни се од Македонија. Моите родители, мислам, сме од Македонија, од Скопје. И имам и државјанство во писмена форма, нели? Прв пат пробав пасош да извадам ланската година. 4 месеци им зеде да ми издадат пасош и го издадоа баш тогаш кога помина рокот за да можат да ме стават на списокот за изборите. И тоа писмо, имейл им го испратив многу одамна, немаат ми одговорено. И сега вчера или некни им испрати, викам, луѓе, викам луѓе, и тоа овој пат на англиски им го напишав, не само на македонски, случајно ако не го разбираат македонскиот, не знам, јас албански не зборувам, али англискиот, да ми одговорат на мојот имейл. Треба да ме стават, барам да ме стават на списокот за изборите, за да можам да гласам следниот пат, затоа што овој пат ми се оневозможи тоа нешто, кога можев да гласам. И не сум јас само пример, имаше многу наши од Австралија кои што не можат да гласаат. Не може да гласа. Зошто не можеме да гласаме? Како други земји чии жители живеат во Австралија или на друго место може да гласаат, а ние да не можеме да гласаме? Зошто да не можеме да гласаме? Зошто не спречуваат? Како иначе би земле активно учество во системот? А ги сакаат нашите пари. Сакаат кога сме таму и кога плаќаме за сместување по хотели, храна, да не зборувам помагање финансиски на роднините и сето тоа. Тоа им одговара. А иначе не им одговараме. Не може тоа така да биде. Време е да се превземат мерки. Така да, мило ми е што се запознавме со Сашо Маневски. Посебно, јас не знам за вашата организација многу, меѓутоа нова основ, нели, ќе се распрашам. И
идете asnom.mk.
Asnom.mk е адресата, одлично, да. Така да ми е мило и драго, предстои голема работа и од наша страна. Ако нешто не превземиме овој пат и не соработуваме со организации како ова novasmon.mk
И novasmon.mk, да.
Ке гледаме да биде да се, мислам, одвиваат работите без некакви поголеми проблеми. Едно што јас ми е страф е да албанците можно е, нели, се е можно од нив. Тоа го направиле не еднаш, многу пати, каде што многу наши, нели, погинале. И оваа работа околу луѓето што се в затвор се уште во Идризово, нели? Не може тоа така. Треба тие да бидат пуштени. Да бидат пуштени на слобода и така натаму. Не знам. Изгледа ќе треба некој од Австралија да им појди таму и да превземи работите, а? Прави министер. Министер. Или некој друг министер.
Ти.
Со луѓе кои што имаат познавање, кои што имаат способности, кои што си ја сакаат својата татковина и кои што навистина сакаат да помогнат. А имало такви луѓе порано, имало. И се надевам дека ќе има и дека нели нема толку да бидат, како да речам, треба да се дистанцираат од оние секојдневни проблеми што ги имаат таму, треба да работа за доброто на татковината и на народот. Остај ти американците и европјаните.
Thank you.
My
Thank you.
pleasure. Thank you.
I want to thank all of you. It's a pleasure to meet Sasho and yourself, Silvana. I want to
You're
thank
welcome.
Ordan. This was Ordan's idea, so thank you, Ordan. I've really enjoyed listening to you guys. You're a lot more informed than me. I've learned a lot. I want to thank Sasha Uzunov for his tireless work online. I think he's a champion.
Good on you.
And
Bro.
if anybody wants to say something further, please do. But we're nearly at 2 hours, guys. So
Yes, if I may, in focus with Silvana Pavlovska, all about
yes.
the PRESPA agreement, please. There are about 50 episodes, and they're
Yeah.
all from the actual publication by Professor Dr. Igor Yanev. So if you want facts, if you want statistics, if you want to see copies of all the letters that have been signed and the framework and all of these, 3 things, PRESPA agreement, the Bulgarian business, and the dvojazičnost, it's all in there. It's
Thank you.
amazing. Please
Thank you.
do listen. We are going to, I'm getting somebody to put them, to get them edited for me, and they will be coming out, about 50 episodes, but it's all in there. And I think it's in English, of course.
Thank you.
Bro.
Yes. So
Ordan,
hopefully-
Ordan, did you want to say something, man?
Yes, I think we should basically prepare a summary of our thoughts and debate and communicate it through a media release, send these recording links, but also write to the President and the Prime Minister and just say, look, we are deeply concerned about certain issues. We don't want Macedonia to go backwards. You cannot hope to move forwards if you follow the same policies of the previous government. That does not make sense. Please understand this and take note of what the Friends of Macedonia, the true Friends of Macedonia, are saying. And this is the Macedonian people that lives in Australia, in Canada, around the world, that love Macedonia, that care for it, that want to contribute and be part of this Macedonian civilization.
Last call, anybody else?
I think that's it, mate.
All right.
Okay.
We've said a lot.
Again, folks, thank you. I've really learned a lot today. And
Thank you.
we can do this anytime you want. Again, we can do it. Sasha Malovsky, thank you, brother. You're
Yeah,
actually
thank you,
doing
brother.
something. The rest of us
Thank
here,
you.
we do a little bit, but you're actually doing something
That's
quite
okay.
important and very important.
Mm.
I'm happy to help you in some way. Again,
If I
guys,
may say so, just one
please,
minute. If you do
please.
guys want to help, I'm leading a cause, and we've launched a court case against the European Commission for not following the EU law. So that's and the court case was launched 25th of March for not registering the Macedonian ethnic club in Blagoevgrad. It's an ethnic club for Macedonian ethnic club for ethnic tolerance. Sorry. And we worked with them. We filed infringement of EU law within the European Commission 2 years ago. They proclaimed themselves that they're not responsible for that issue. We disagree. We got a lawyer from Paris, from France, who represent us, and now we are hoping this case to end up with a court case. This is the first case for human rights of Macedonians in Bulgaria within the EU institution, and that Court of Justice in Luxembourg, which is part of the EU institutions. So if you want to find out more, you can send me an email. We do need support the lawyers actually to pay for the fees. That's how you can support us. This is the real cause, and there are lots of other Macedonian-based organizations from US, New Jersey, Canada, and Australia as well, and Europe. So that's one case that I've been working actively, and that's just it will be slap in the face to if we win. Of course, we are seeking to prevent Bulgaria to receive cohesion funds in totaling about $1.5 billion. These are mostly infrastructure funds for not registering the club. We'll see how it goes. This is our legal battle, and I don't know how that we are at the stage that we need to receive answer from the European Commission, basically, so the court can decide what to do next.
Can I ask a question, Sasha?
Yeah, briefly and shortly.
To your
yes,
knowledge,
please.
has anyone taken any legal action against the United Nations or sought or made a complaint to the United Nations for not following the charter, and seeking a legal opinion from the, what do they call it, the Justice Court? Seeking a legal opinion about how it was all handled, and why all these conditions were imposed on Macedonia by the United Nations because of the complaint from Greece.
Yes.
Do you know if?
Yeah, they didn't follow some articles for admitting Macedonia, so they imposed additional rules.
Yes.
Which are not under the UN Charter.
Yes.
I'm familiar with that, but however, I'm not familiar with the procedure, whether we can launch any suit against them or not, and where it can be done.
Yes,
I'm interested.
The answer lies in the document from Professor Igoryanev, the book, the publication. He talks about that, how that can be achieved, because there have been previous legal decisions made by the court that the United Nations must abide by.
Okay, thank you, folks.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We can continue. We have to finish, but we can do it again.
Absolutely, I'm open for discussions.
Once again, thank you to everybody. And
take care, guys. Gotta go.
Macedonia.
Macedonia.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
From Melbourne.
Приятно.
Good evening, folks. My name is Jivan Rendev. I am the president of a new organization in Melbourne, Australia called Naša Makedonia, dedicated to protect Good evening, folks. My name is Jivan Rendev. I am the president of a new organization in Melbourne, Australia called Naša Makedonia, dedicated to protect and promote the human rights of our nation and our people. I've been politically